doing? So the new printer arrived. I figured we would take a look at what you get in the box and we'll go through the initial setup while we're at it. Okay, so that's pretty much the unboxing out of the way. We're going to take a quick look around the printer now. So at the front you've got the touchscreen and the USB port. Around the back you've got your power switch and power port. And then going all the way around this lid is that rubber seal that we put on there, which holds it nicely in place. It can be a bit loose at the start, but I think it gets used to being on there. So you've got this brand new sort of build plate. This has a nice sandblasted finish, which is a bit different to what they did on the Mars Pro. And this is your resin tank, which is quite nice and solid. You've got your max fill line at the back there. You've also got that groove, which is nice and handy for actually pouring your resin out once you empty your tank. On the bottom here you've got your little film to peel off. Make sure you take that off before you start printing. There's also one on the front here on the LCD, so you want to peel that off, but make sure whatever you do you don't touch this black tape that goes around the screen. You want to keep that there. At the back here is the monorail. That keeps that nice and sturdy as it goes up and down, the build plate moves. and you've got that carbon filter at the back, which once you put the lid on creates a nice vacuum inside and just helps to vent out some of the horrible smells. Right, so now we're going to take a look at getting the printer ready to use. So in the manual at the front here we have your sort of inventory page, which shows you everything that you got in the box, and at the bottom here it actually says that if you go to their Facebook page you can actually claim a free FEP film for your resin tank, which is pretty handy. Also there's a few other bits, you know, specifications and stuff at the front, but what we're going to do in a second is have a look at how to zero your build plate. But before we do that, what I'm going to do is the quick test on the LCD, just for anyone interested, because the Mars Pro did have some issues with grid lines on the LCD. So I'm just going to turn the UV on here. This is just for the tank clean, just to show you that this Mars 2 Pro has absolutely no grid lines on there whatsoever. So to zero your build plate, you've got to screw that on the top there first, make sure it's nice and sturdy, and then all we have to do is take the Allen key and just loosen that. You'll feel it sort of pop down a little bit and it will become nice and loose. These do twist all around the place. I'm not sure what the point is, why they sort of go left and right, but if anyone knows, please let me know. So what we're going to do, we just need a bit of paper here to put on the screen. I'm just going to use the back of the manual, and what you want to do is just go to your movement and just press the home button, and that will bring that build plate all the way down to the screen. You'll see it sort of go, press down and come up, and then it will set itself in place. Now what you want to do is you want to try and use the paper and get that build plate in place. Like I said, it kind of twists around and rotates, which I don't know why it rotates, but try and make sure it's straight across the screen, and then once you're happy, just tighten those bolts back up. Just make sure they're nice and tight, because you don't want this to sort of unbalance itself. And then once you've done that, the paper should be quite difficult to move. What you want to do is just raise it the smallest amount, which I think is like 0.1 mil. Just do that a couple of times and you'll feel the paper go really loose. If it's really loose, the plate's a bit too high, so you just want to put it down once, maybe twice, and the ideal scenario is that the paper, you can pull it around but you should feel some resistance. So you see there's a little bit of tug, but it will move, you know, it's not too firm. Once you're happy with that, you just want to go back to the home screen and press the home button. That will then zero the build plate ready for use, and then once you're finished, just raise it all the way up to the top. The other thing I'm going to do real quick as well is just do your normal LCD test. This is just to make sure everything's working, that there's no spots on the screen that isn't working, there's no UV in there that's got any dark areas. That is a bit different to obviously the other one. What I'm doing here actually is just using a microfiber cloth to clean the screen, and you can also use it on the bottom of the bottom of your tray there. It's just a nice gentle cloth just to help clear off anything. Sometimes I do use this, which is just an LCD cleaner in very, very small amounts. That's just another thing I found that's quite useful for cleaning, but usually you can get away with just a microfiber cloth on its own. But yeah, you want to make sure that that black film doesn't come off. Now with this tray, it does line up. There's like a groove around the screen there which it lines up to. There is a little bit of a wiggle, but once you're happy with the position, just screw that down into place, and with that there, you're pretty much good to go. Right, one thing I wanted to show you in the settings real quick is they have added a whole bunch of new languages. So you've got a few on the front there. There's also a second page with some more languages. The weird thing is there isn't like a back button, so once you're on here you are stuck having to choose a language, so just choose your language. The funny thing with the English I've noticed here is that English isn't actually written in English, but But we select that, and what it actually says is your current language is Dutch. So I'm assuming there's some kind of English-Dutch version. Again, there's no back button, so you have to confirm. But everything is actually displayed in English, but maybe a Dutch English. Anyway, we'll jump to Chitubox now and just show you how to quickly install the software, and then we'll go to printing after that. Right, once you plug your USB in, you should find this cheeky little 4 gig drive popped up. It does come with a pretty generic name, so what I like to do is rename it the same as the printer, just to make life a little bit easier. So once you open that, you should be greeted with all this stuff here. Now this bottom file is a G-code file. You want to try and keep this safe. You don't want to delete it or lose it. So what I'd recommend is you just create a copy and just store it somewhere on your PC should you need it later on. If you do buy a new USB stick, you don't actually need this on there for it to work, but it's a good idea to have that backed up in case you need it. You also get a PDF with the user manual on, which is quite handy. That's the one you get in the box. You get a folder with the slicing software, which we're going to take a look at later on. You also get a folder from My Mini Factory with some models on there for you to print, and a little storybook for them. Now this picture shows you everything that's on there for you to print. I haven't printed any of them myself, I just haven't got around to it, but I will do it at some point. And this top folder here is basically your test print. So this is from ELEGOO. If we open that, this top file here is a CTB file. Now that is what your printer uses, your printer reads to print your models. And this one here is the object file. Now this is the raw object you use to create this test file. But this test file is ready for you to go, plug into your printer and go with the settings already done for you. But we'll take a look at those in a little bit. So if you go back to the slicing software, there's a few different operating systems for you to choose from. We'll go here. So we've got Chitubox installer. Now this is version 1.6.5, which is actually the latest version. But if you don't want to install it here, say this is out of date or whatever, you can actually go to the Chitubox website and download it from there. If you hit download, you've got the Chitubox free. There is a pro version coming, but I'm not sure what the actual difference between the two of them will be, so if you know, leave a comment or something. So click on that, and you come here. You've got a few options. You probably want to choose stable, and then again you've got your operating systems, so choose what one you want, click download. Now the only catch with coming to the website to download it is you'll be brought here. You have to sign in or sign up to download it. So go ahead and do that if you want. Once that's downloaded, once you basically installed it, whichever way you decide to go, you should be left with something like this. Now you can actually sign in here with your account. I don't actually know what difference this makes. I've signed in, I've used it, signed out, I've used it, signed in. I don't know. I don't know if it backs up your settings or anything like that, but you can sign in if you want to. When you first run this, I think it actually asks you to choose your printer, so I'm going to do that now and just go to add printer. I think this is the box you get when you first run it. So what we want to do quickly is go to ELEGOO and scroll down to the Mask 2 Pro and add that. Now this will be added to your list of printers, and you'll see all the settings are here for your printer. So it's got all your build plate info and so on. You've got a tab here for resin, so you can rename that and you can actually save the different profiles for different resin that you use. You can change the density and the cost, so you can have an idea of how much each print is going to cost you. In print, you've got all your print settings. Now this is the default settings for the printer. You should be good to print with these straight away, but you can change these to whatever you want for different resin, for different settings, for different layers. I'm not going to go into all of that now, but that's there if you want to change it. And you've got a few other settings. Again, this should all be good to go straight away, but again, you can change this later on. Now what I will say real quick with this program, if you are having issues printing that test file that comes on the USB, what you can actually do, if we go to the USB and if this one wants to open, so this is the file, the print file. You don't really want to open this in Chitubox because it always goes a bit funny. But if you have an issue printing that, I'd recommend opening this object file. So you can actually basically use this to create a new test print file where you can change the settings to match whatever you want to try out. What I will say is this is actually a bit smaller than the one that comes in the test print. So just play with some settings and change the scale. I'll quickly show you because I did actually remake it myself with some different settings. Can you open that? So I've used that raw file before and just basically replicated the test file that they provided, and all I did was change a few settings. So once you're happy, if you want to do that, you just click slice, and this will then create a printable file for your printer. You probably, obviously won't have that smaller one on there. And then once this is done, it's usually pretty quick, it will give you a lowdown of your print. So you have this, you'll be able to see through all the different layers that your printer's going to do, and it'll also give you an idea in cost and stuff there. So if you want to print a new one, you want to save that, just go to your USB stick. You can put it in a folder if you want, name it whatever you want, and just hit save, and then that will show up on your USB stick when you plug it into your printer. So that's pretty much that. So we'll jump back to the printer now. Right, so we're going to crack the resin out, but before we use that, I'm going to put some gloves on, safety first and all that. Don't forget you've also got the mask in the box. I'd recommend putting something like that on because this does have a bit of a horrible smell. So I'm going to use the water washable resin from ELEGOO. It is my favourite at the moment. Don't forget to give your resin a good shake. I did shake the living daylights out of this before I poured it in. You've also got these paper funnels, remember, so you can use those when you're finished to pour your resin back into the bottle and give it a filter. I would also recommend getting one of these. It's like a little silicone funnel with a metal filter. These are just a must-have. Those paper ones do not last long. You've also got this little measuring cup as well to pour your resin in. One thing I did forget to mention earlier is that the feet on the bottom of the printer are adjustable. So I use this spirit level to help me level off the printer should it be sat on a slightly uneven surface. So what we're going to do is just plug the USB in the front here, and we're going to hit the print button, and then we're just going to load up the test file that comes preloaded on there. I'm just going to hit that play button to get the printer going. Once you do that, obviously you'll see the build plate lower into the resin, and once that is done, once your print's finished, you can actually use this sort of offset to basically angle your build plate once your print's finished, and just let all the excess resin just drip back off into your tray, just to minimize any kind of wastage, which is really handy. And yeah, it's good to leave that sit for, I don't know, a few hours or something, just to help it all run off before you take it off to clean. Right, so that's the video. I hope you found some of the information in there useful. If you've got any questions or anything, just leave a comment and I'll get back to you. So I didn't print anything in the video because I didn't really want to print in the room that I was filming in. I did want to show what this was for. However, since filming all of that, I have moved the printer into the room that I'll be using it in, and I have printed that test file that's on the USB stick. I haven't changed any of the settings. This was just a first time print. Thankfully, first time successful print, no fails, nothing like that. There's a couple of little minor imperfections on it, but it's nothing to cry about. I haven't fine-tuned my resin to this printer yet, so that'll be something for me to do next. I'm just hoping that these come off the build plate nice and easy, because the last thing I want to do is scratch it, because it's just not very nice. I might do a follow-up review video. If that's something you want to see, again, let me know or something. Until then, I am going to just start printing and hopefully make some more videos. Again, like I said, hopefully you found some of this stuff useful. Any comments, questions, leave comments. That's the one. Yeah, cool. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.